Below is the important part of this document taken directly from the photograph of the original document. The Lord heard my cry in the wilderness, and while in the attitude of calling upon the Lord in the 16th year of my age, a pillar of light above the brightness of the sun at noonday come down from above and rested upon me, and I was filled with the Spirit of God, and the Lord opened the heavens upon me, and I saw the Lord, and he spake unto me, saying, Joseph my son, thy sins are forgiven thee. Go thy way, walk in my statutes, and keep my commandments. Behold, I am the Lord of glory. I was crucified for the world, that all those who believe on my name may have eternal life. Behold, the world lieth in sin at this time, and none doeth good, no, not one. They have turned aside from the gospel, and keep not my commandments. They draw near to me with their lips, while their hearts are far from me, and mine anger is kindling against the inhabitants of the earth, to visit them according to this ungodliness, and to bring to pass that which hath been spoken by the mouth of the prophets and apostles. Behold, and lo, I come quickly, as it was written of me in the cloud, clothed in the glory of my Father. A careful examination of this document reveals that the reason church leaders have never published or referred to it is that it contains irreconcilable differences with the official account. These differences concern Joseph Smith's age, his reason for seeking the Lord, the question of a revival, and the presence of an evil power. See Mormonism, Shadow or Reality? Page 146. The most serious contradiction between the accounts is the number of personages in the vision. In the first account, Joseph Smith only mentions one personage. I saw the Lord. In the version published today in the Pearl of Great Price, Joseph Smith said, I saw two personages. In the account that was suppressed by Mormon leaders, Joseph Smith related that the Lord said he was crucified for the world. This, of course, would mean that the personage had to be Jesus Christ. Therefore, it is plain to see that Joseph Smith did not include God the Father in his first account of the vision. James B. Allen stated, in this story, only one personage was mentioned, and this was obviously the Son, for he spoke of having been crucified. Dialogue, A Journal of Mormon Thought, Autumn 1966, page 40. Paul R. Cheeseman tries to excuse the fact that the account which was suppressed only mentions one personage by stating, as he writes briefly of the vision, he does not mention the Father as being present. However, this does not indicate that he was not present. An analysis of the accounts relating Joseph Smith's early visions, page 63. This explanation by Paul Cheeseman does not seem reasonable. Actually, in this first account, Joseph Smith quotes the Lord as saying more words than in his later printed version. Speaking of the account of 1832, the Mormon writer Milton V. Bachman says, it is possible that after dictating the account, Joseph recognized the desirability of modifying certain statements. Often when people record biographical sketches or historical incidents, they write and rewrite until their ideas are clearly expressed. Joseph Smith's First Vision, 1971, page 124. While it is true that many people have to write and rewrite until their ideas are clearly expressed, we do not feel that Joseph Smith could have left out the most important part of the story by accident. If God the Father had actually appeared in this vision, Joseph Smith certainly would have included this information in his first account. It is absolutely impossible for us to believe that Joseph Smith would not have mentioned the Father if he had actually appeared. The reader will notice how the wording is changed to support the idea of two personages. In the first account, Joseph Smith says that the Lord spake unto me, saying, Joseph my son, thy sins are forgiven thee. The later version also uses the word son, but this time it no longer refers to Joseph Smith but rather to another personage in the vision. One of them spoke unto me, calling me by name, and said, pointing to the other, This is my beloved Son, hear him. We feel that the only reasonable explanation for the Father not being mentioned in the account which was suppressed is that Joseph Smith did not see God the Father, and that he made up this part of the story after the writing of the first manuscript. This, of course, throws a shadow of doubt upon the whole story. After this strange account came to light, A Mormon seminary teacher told us that there was still another account of the first vision which the Mormon leaders were suppressing. To our great surprise, this second account was published in the autumn, 1966, issue of Dialogue, a journal of Mormon thought. It appeared in the article by James B. Allen. We do not have room to deal with this account here. Although it is a very important account, it was overshadowed by still another account which was published by Dean C. Jesse of the Church Historical Department in the spring 1971 issue of Dialogue, a journal of Mormon thought. Mr. Jesse informs us that this account was recorded in the Prophet's 1835-36 diary by his scribe, Warren Parrish. The important part of this account reads as follows, ... I called on the Lord in mighty prayer, a pillar of fire appeared above my head, it presently rested down upon me head, and filled me with joy unspeakable. A personage appeared in the midst of this pillar of flame which was spread all around, and yet nothing consumed. Another personage soon appeared like unto the first, he said unto me, thy sins are forgiven thee. He testified unto me that Jesus Christ is the Son of God, and I saw many angels in this vision. I was about 14 years old when I received this first communication. Joseph Smith's Diary, 1835-36, page 24, as quoted in Dialogue, a Journal of Mormon Thought, spring 1971, page 87. The reader will notice that in this account of the first vision there is absolutely nothing to show that the personages were God and Christ. The statement, quote, he testified unto me that Jesus Christ is the Son of God, end quote, would seem to show that the personages were not the Father and the Son. If Joseph Smith had intended to show that the personage who spoke was Jesus, he should have said something like this, quote, he testified also unto me that he was the Son of God. End quote. On the other hand, if he intended to show that the personage who spoke was the Father, he would probably have said something like this, quote, he testified also unto me that Jesus Christ was his Son. End quote. Adding to the confusion, Joseph Smith states that there were, quote, many angels in this vision. End quote. Neither of the other versions indicate that there were many angels. It is also interesting to note that Joseph Smith's 1835-36 diary was used as a basis for much of his history of the church for that period, but the portion containing this confusing account of the first vision was omitted. We have now examined 3 different handwritten manuscripts of the first vision. They were all written by Joseph Smith or his scribes, and yet every one of them is different. The first account says there was only one personage. The second account says there were many, and the third says there were 2. The Church, of course, accepts the version which contains 2 personages. If we had to accept any of the versions, we would choose the first account. It was written 6 or 7 years closer to the event, and therefore it should give a more accurate picture of what really took place. Also, this account, which mentions only one personage, is the only account in Joseph Smith's own handwriting. At any rate, when one becomes aware of the fact that there are conflicting versions of the story, it becomes very difficult to believe that Joseph Smith ever had a vision in the grove. On top of all this, there is irrefutable evidence that an important reference to the first vision in the history of the church has been falsified by Mormon historians after Joseph Smith's death. Over 30 years ago, Fawn M. Brodie suggested that there might be a problem with this reference. Under the date of November 15, 1835 in the History of the Church appears the following statement by Joseph Smith, quote, I gave him Erastus Holmes a brief relation of my experience while in my juvenile years, say from 6 years old up to the time I received my first vision, which was when I was about 14 years old. End quote. Volume 2, page 312. But Joseph admittedly did not begin writing his history until 1838, and the editors of this history do not state from which manuscript source in the Utah Church Library this journal entry came. Access to all these important manuscripts is denied everyone save authorities of the Mormon Church. No man knows my history, page 24, footnote. Apostle John A. Widtsoe tried to defend this reference from the history of the Church by stating, in 1835 he told one Erastus Holmes of his first vision, which was when I was 14 years old. The proponents of the theory that the prophet invented the first vision in 1838 doubt the accuracy of the Holmes and similar references, because they hold that the Church History, the Journal of Joseph Smith, has been tampered with by later workers. It is sad when a drowning man does not even have a straw to which he may cling. Joseph Smith, Seeker After Truth, pages 24 to 25. In spite of John A. Widtsoe's statement, a woman who was doing research at the Utah State Historical Society searched through a microfilm of the early Deseret News and found information which proves that the Mormon historians deliberately altered Joseph Smith's statement. In the 1850s, the Deseret News, the Mormon Church's newspaper, was publishing Joseph Smith's History of the Church. In the issue for May 29, 1852, the following statement by Joseph Smith appeared: "This afternoon, Erastus Holmes, of Newbury, Ohio, called on me to inquire about the establishment of the Church, and to be instructed in doctrine more perfectly. I gave him a brief relation of my experience while in my juvenile years, say from 6 years old up to the time I received the first visitation of angels, which was when I was about 14 years old, also the revelations that I received afterwards concerning the Book of Mormon, and a short account of the rise and progress of the Church up to this date." Deseret News, Volume 2, Number 15, May 29, 1852. Because this statement by Joseph Smith contradicted the teaching that the Father and the Son appeared to him in the first vision of 1820, the Mormon Church historians altered the words when they reprinted it in later editions of the History of the Church. They changed the wording so that the word angels was completely left out. The following is a comparison of the way this reference was originally published in the Deseret News and the way it has been changed to read in recent printings of the History of the Church, Desert News. Quote, "I received the first visitation of angels, which was when I was about 14 years old." End quote. May 29, 1852. History of the Church. Quote, "I received my first vision, which was when I was about 14 years old." End quote. Volume 2, page 312,